The Mead countryside over on the left side, certainly here. You'll see exactly the kind of habitat that I'm talking about. So large open fields with linear hedgerows are exactly where these guys like to live, because that's where they find their favourite types of food. Who can tell me, what is it the barn owls eat? Mice. Mice is a good answer. Anything else? Worms would be a tough one, I don't know. I wouldn't say no, but I'm sure they might try it if they were real hungry. Any small rodent really, and we've got other ones too. We've got shrews, we've got bank voles, so anything small enough to fit into their little talons. And what I haven't told you yet is the definition of a raptor, which is a bird that catches its food with its feet. So you'll see him landing with his feet. In this case we hand him his food, but there's a reason for that as well. His eyesight doesn't work great up close. So, when you're looking for mice,
have you ever been so close to an owl? No, not.
He's got a couple of
it's amazing, isn't it?
But I've been close to a bird.
He's also got lots of adaptations that help. For you all this afternoon. Is everyone enjoying their day so far?
Yeah.
That's the best weather of the year, so hopefully our plan is to make your day at least a little bit better, if not hopefully beat out of a few of your days over as well. The birds are pretty impressive. We try and help out too, so hopefully you'll all enjoy it. Has anyone been here before? Give us another cheer. No hands up.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, so welcome back. And if it's your first time?
No.
No.
You're outnumbered. Welcome as well. So for those of you who haven't been before, you might not have any clue what you've got yourselves in for. Anyone scared of birds?
No.
No.
We'll face the field, will we? No, we're nice to people, I swear. If you're new, you might not know what's about to go on. It is quite interactive, but the important thing to remember, these are relatively well-trained wild animals. They're not like your pets at home. So make sure you don't reach out to try and touch any of the birds. They will not appreciate it, and neither will your fingers. Past that, if you have any food,
no, you can't do that.
Here, make sure you hide it away now. That might draw birds into the crowd as well. We'll bring a few of them into the crowd.
I want to see them.
They see something that they might like to eat and find things attached instead, guys. So make sure any food, and just be safe your drinks as well, stay hidden behind you for the whole display. You'll notice that I've asked you for a cheer rather than a show of hands. We ask questions throughout these displays as well. Shout your answers out. Never put anything up above your head. For the next 20 minutes, I'm going to borrow the space above your heads right down to the last 2 centimeters. If you take a glance up at the back wall, you see along with my colleague Shiva up there, there are some AstroTurf perches. That's where the birds are flying between myself and Shiva, and those perches out in front and up on the back as well. They will be coming quite close to the tops of your head, guys. So if you stand up suddenly, or if you raise anything above your head, you're at risk of being in a collision with the large carnivorous bird. So make sure that you stay in your seats for the whole display and don't raise anything up above your head. Is that okay, guys?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
We're not cruel. If you do need to leave, if you need to access a pram or anything like that, Katie here in the middle is going to help you out with that, okay? So if you need to leave all of a sudden, small kids or anything like that, try and get her attention. You can try and get mine, but I promise you it won't happen. I'm too preoccupied with what's going on out here. I'll try my best, of course, but if you do need to stand up, you have to let someone know.
I'm so excited!
There will be potentially times when there's more than one bird out. If you think you know what you're watching, there could be something coming from behind you as well. Not to make it sound too terrifying or anything like that, they're all lovely. Are we all okay with those health and safety tips, folks?
Yes.
If anyone has any questions about the birds, we'll take them at the end. We'll hang around for a few minutes for you if you do have any curiosities about them. Other than that, we'll get the ball rolling in just a few seconds. The last thing that I want to mention is about a charity partner that we have here in Tayto Park called Golden Eagle Trust. You are now all financial supporters of them as well, because part of your ticket sale, a small percentage, goes towards that and other charities that we support on an annual basis. So the Golden Eagle Trust, as you can guess by the name, we've been helping to reintroduce our previously extirpated, that's locally extincted raptors here to Ireland. We had and lost white-tailed eagles, golden eagles and red kites. They are now all back here in Ireland thanks to the work of the Golden Eagle Trust. So 1997, Glenveigh National Park,
That's a big bird over there.
Since then in 2007,
That's
we have
not a bird, that's a helicopter. The wings don't go like this.
Their reintroduction started in a boat camp through the window, and they've now spread so nicely across the country that they can be found as far north as here, basically. Starting this show, not with a red kite, but with a non-native bird whose name is Pablo. You've probably never seen anything like this before, because this is a crested caracara. We do not get these birds in this part of the world. He's from a across the Atlantic. We'll take a bit of a tour of the world with our birds today. This guy is an American species. They're only found in the Americas. So from Central America down through most of South America as well. And they are an absolutely beautiful example of a raptor. Like I say, you probably have never heard of them before, because we don't get them around here. There's a lot of different types of caracaras. Take a look, everyone. Yeah, what did you find? Those? There's plenty of different types of caracaras. These types of caracaras are one of the larger, one of the more intelligent caracaras out there. And what they like to do is hang around in groups and use their intelligence. So, like I say, you've probably heard of things like eagles, falcons, and hawks. And these are actually quite closely related to falcons. Falcons themselves, I apologise, this helicopter was around all day yesterday as well, annoying us through the skies. Hopefully the birds will manage alright. So
cool, huh?
Hopefully not distracted by the helicopter. Right?
And the bird listens to the two people.
But anyway, returning to the birds. They're really intelligent, they're related to like falcons and parrots. They're in the same family as those guys. So what are parrots famous for? Talk, yeah. Not a trick question. Parrots can talk, and these guys are quite related to them. They can't speak the same way they can.
They have a sharp eyes.
Comprehensible language for us at least anyway. But they are very, very loud. They do make a lot of noise. We've got two of them living in their apiary outside, and they do like to talk to each other and talk to the audience quite a bit. So if you're passing by, you'll hear them squawking an awful lot. And that serves an important purpose out in the wild, because they're an alarm for the whole area. They live in parts of the Amazon. They're the alarm system that alerts everybody if there happens to be something like a jaguar, an ocelot, or a mountain lion hanging around. They'll scare off, they'll scare off anything like that, or they'll allow all the prey species to know that there's a dangerous predator in the area. So they do an important job in that way. But they like to hang around in gangs as well, putting their intelligence to use. And that means if you're hanging around in a group, so hanging around in gangs and being that clever means that often they can be bullies. The easiest way to find your food isn't to actively have to chase something down. They are a carnivore and they are a predator, so they can hunt quite well. But it's always easier
specifically trained to fly as low as possible.
They'll look for small things, or they'll see if they can steal food from somebody else. One thing that they're particularly good at, and this is very clever on their part, is they'll use forest fires to their advantage. So you can imagine if a natural forest fire breaks out, what these guys will do is hang out in front of it, and they'll chase all the insects that are trying to get away. But as well as that, when they're down on the ground, they'll look for things like rocks and logs to turn over. Now, I don't have an example of that, but we do want to show you exactly how our birds behave in the wild. And again, to do this quick enough to get away from the buffalo, he is far too fast at using these buckets to provide himself a bit of food. But you can imagine if it was rocks and logs in the wild, this is exactly what he'd be doing, trying to fit them up. He'd be struggling with that one. What are you doing? There's nothing better here, it's all the same. It's chicken regardless. Go on, you got one.
How cute.
So the exact same thing he'd be doing in the wild, just with something that looks a bit different. Is the food hidden or something? He stood it back up. I didn't even see him do it. He made food of me. So not only tipping them over, but standing them back up as well. So we do like to show you rather than tell you in some instances what our birds do.
Is that his
Everything that we get them to do out here for you, it's all quite instinctive anyway. They are a very different animal to us, the birds. We're mammals and our brains work by learning quite well. But those guys run largely on instinct, so anything that we kind of reinforce them to do, it's pretty much just replicating what they do naturally in the wild as well. So it's quite easy to get them to do it really. They're not jumping through hoops or doing tricks or anything like that. They're just performing exactly the same tasks they would do in the wild, just in a slightly different setting here. So like I say, Pablo, an American species only found on the far side of the Atlantic. Now we'll bring us something that we do definitely
It's so cute.
You're actually the first crowd this year that we got a good haul for Audi. His name is Audi. You can tell me what he is.
Audi, his name.
Arnold is correct, because I did hear someone say Hedwig over there.
Owls are not supposed to be awake in their day.
They can go sleep after the show.
Look at the most successful. I say that because they're the most widespread of all of the owls. You can find them almost everywhere across the planet. It's quicker to list the places they don't show up than it is to list the places they do. So to go through them quickly, Antarctica is the only continent where there are no barn owls. Other than that, you don't find them north of the Himalayas or on a few Pacific islands. Otherwise, they're absolutely everywhere. They've done very, very well over time, even evolving with us in the last 200 years.
Well, I did before.
You can
buy
probably
a different type of bird.
barn owl. They do like
never wild birds like this.
They've done very well in tandem with humans through the development of modern agriculture over the last few hundred years. And it's not just because barns are a nice safe place for them to raise their owlets, which is what a baby owl is called, but also because barns tend to be situated in the middle of their favourite habitat. And if you take a look into the Meath countryside, over on the left side certainly here, you'll see exactly the kind of habitat that I'm talking about. So large open fields with linear hedgerows are exactly where these guys like to live, because that's where they find their favourite types of food. Who can tell me, what is it that barn owls eat? Mice is a good answer. Anything else? Worms would be a tough one, I don't know. I would say no, but I'm sure they might try it if they were real hungry. Any small rodent really, and we've got other ones too. We've got shrews, we've got bank voles, so anything small enough to fit into their little talons. And what I haven't told you yet is the definition of a raptor, which is a bird that catches its food with its feet. So you'll see him landing with his feet. In this case we hand him his food, but there's a reason for that as well, because his eyesight doesn't work great up close. So, when you're looking for mice,
have you ever been so close to an owl?
No, not.
He's got a couple
It's amazing, isn't it? But I've been close to a bird.
He's also got lots of adaptations that help him to sneak up on.
Raptors.
So first off, take a look at the colour of this little man. He's very, very pale. He's an Irish barn owl. And they tend to be a lot more white than some barn owls found further across the globe. They change in different places to match their habitat. Here, we're mostly overcast, so it makes sense for them to be very, very pale to match the sky. So they're very hard for their prey to ever actually see. As well as that, they're very hard to hear. While she was good and far away from me up on the far side there, I'll run a quick little experiment to show you how hard it is to hear a barn owl. So they have quality to their feathers. The texture of their feathers means that they're serrated on every edge, basically, at the end of each feather. And it allows them to fly silently. If you think of a bumblebee, it's very loud when they take off, but close your eyes for a second and see what you can hear.
Silent.
Quiet. Quiet.
Silent.
How is it silent?
Special feathers.
Try, but I guarantee it, nothing is going to.
He explained it, you need to listen to him.
It's kind of hard with the roller coaster.
Special feathers which makes less.
They're all coming in quite loud. But out of here, not a sound in the world. So they fly silently. They break turbulence is how they do that with those feathers. But that means that this is roughly top speed. So they're not really a fast hunter. They're not going to spring a trap on anything. They have to sneak up on their prey. So using their silence and their camouflage, very difficult for their prey to ever know that they're coming. But even with all that combined, they still have to find their food, right? So take a look at how big his eyes are in his small little head. This guy only weighs 300 grams, very, very small. A couple bags of sugar is all. But his eyes are absolutely massive. They take up 2/3 of his skull. 70% of his head is taken up by eyes, which doesn't leave a whole lot of space for brains, just to point out. Has anyone ever heard of the wise old owl? No? You shouldn't have, because it's a myth. So that whole wise old owl thing, totally made up. They don't have the biggest brains. That's not an insult. They're just clever in their own way. Very, very well adapted to hunting in different ways. So their eyesight
is smart.
Those big eyes. They only see in black and white though, because what time of day are they mostly active, folks? Largely at night.
Usually when birds fly, it makes sound.
Are they not quiet?
Yes.
Yes, they are.
But not all owls stay up at night. Some stay up at day.
Whenever they're hungry, that's when they'll hunt.
I didn't know that.
In the day as well. But despite how good his sight is, that's not his super sense. He can see very well from far away, great binocular vision, like ourselves. Everyone can probably see this chicken leg here in my hand, and so can Audi, but
I can't even see that.
His name is Audi, like the car.
Yeah, Audi.
Can't see it. So they've never seen their own feet. They only see at a distance. They're hearing.
They can't have the same name.
Pinpoint their food. So by bouncing that off the map, we'll hit it every single time. And the reason for that is, if you draw a line from the tops of your ears around your face, they'll match right in the middle, hopefully. Whereas with owls, they're asymmetrical. Their right ear is above their right eye, their left ear below their left eye. And that means the sound reaches them at different times, and they're able to pinpoint very accurately where that sound is coming from. Along with that, they have that lovely disc-shaped face, so any sound is amplified and brought right into their ears. So it's thought that they're able to hear
well, they don't use
something like a
food, they
mouse
use natural
through the
food
grass,
like chicken, what the
anywhere
birds
up
like.
to 30 meters away. And when they get in close, they can apparently hear their heartbeat from about 3 or 4 feet as well. So their hearing is absolutely unmatched. They're able to pick up on their prey from such a distance and pick up on them so accurately that it really does help them catching their food. He knows he's on his way home in a second, and he's now decided to be grumpy.
Will she get another bird?
Now, I told you that they're very wide. He didn't want the small piece of food because he knows where he's going for a big meal. So part of that training,
now going. Bye-bye, Audie.
Reward is when he heads back into his house there in his aviary. So he's quite happy to go back and forth and go home. I little bits of food here in my hand. I said that they're very widespread, but unfortunately not doing well here in Ireland anymore.
Wonder when the next bird is going to come.
You will see.
Quite a lot of our barn owls. Now the average age is only 8 months old.
Yeah.
Barn owl project, a new charity we're looking after here in Ireland if you'd like to learn any more about it. But I hear that you're now thoroughly distracted by our next guest. This is Zulu, and Zulu here is a Bachelor Eagle, and this is certainly not a native species. Not native to Ireland, they are endemic.
That's an eagle.
The only place you'll find them is the African continent.
Zulu in the Philippines, that's an eagle.
They'll kind of start the Sahel region, and
But not the
there,
type.
they avoid the Congo rainforest down the east coast. As far as South Africa, and the national bird of Zimbabwe, so mostly southern Africa is where they tend to be found. So Bachelor Eagles, an excellent representation of their whole group, the eagles, which are probably what you all came to see, the kings and queens of the sky. I should say queens really. With birds of prey, females are 30% larger. They take out bigger prey and they're really the boss.
Oh my goodness, so low.
Excellent eyesight,
On the ground.
despite the fact that this guy weighs
because
about 2
he
kilos.
trained.
He has eyes nearly the size of all of us here, so nearly the same size as us. As he ignores the obvious piece of food with us. So they use that while soaring on those big large wings that you can see here to stick the feet. Okay.
Look
So
at
yeah,
the wings.
most eagles spend a lot of time on the wing, and Bachelors do as well. But as you've seen, just there. Do you want to head out, guys? Yeah, you can fire away. I'll keep them over this side for you.
What are doors on him?
Bachelor Eagles, well, they can soar brilliantly on that wide wingspan. They do also spend an awful lot of time on the ground, as he just demonstrated for you there. So we'll get him down good and close for you to see exactly how that works as well. Because what you might notice is, despite him being an eagle, being a bird of prey, he's lacking, sort of, in something that would be very typical with these birds. Now you can see on him what's a bit shorter than you'd expect. His tail, exactly right. So because they spend a lot of time on the ground, they've evolved to have a much shorter tail. Now that means they're very hesitant to take off because their tail is their rudder. It's what allows them to steer. So he's quite cautious flying depending on the wind direction. But once they're up there, instead of using the tail to steer, you'll notice that they use the extended wingspan. So he does this lovely wobble as he's moving around, and it's actually where they got their name from, both on the ground and in the sky. The word battleur is an old French word for a tightrope walker. This helicopter upset him a bit yesterday, so now I'm pretty sure that's what's actually getting to him. We'll see, can we get him down to me here? So
It's a little above my head.
much longer wingspan relative to the size of the body, and that's why.
Right above your head, huh?
That's the name.
Are you tired?
What I was saying is an old French word for a tightrope walker or a circus performer, something like that. So when you see them around on the ground or even on the wing, they demonstrate exactly how they got that name. Now the other way that he's different
flying around.
He's quite colourful. Whereas a lot of eagles are kind of drab, brown colours. They're meant to camouflage and sneak up on their prey. This guy is a very colourful bird. So you see not just the face, which is quite red at the moment.
Look at the wings, when they spread the wings, it's
happily flying about and doing his show, getting
oh my god, he is smart.
But also the colour of the wings. So if you look at his back, the lovely brown colour there, if you'll turn around and go for that piece of chicken, you find it. Come on, best eyesight in the world, remember?
Yeah.
The black and grey wings, white undersides of the wings as well. But the face obviously is the most striking. I mentioned there that it can flush up in colour, so like a chameleon or like an octopus or something like that. Bachelor Eagles, and in fact the Crested Caracar that we had out as well, their colouring will deepen when they're in a certain mood. So they when they're in a quite happy mood, or even if they're in an aggressive mood, sometimes they'll demonstrate it by the colour of their face, and it's quite flushed here. But they don't always look like this either. We have two Bachelor Eagles here at Tayto Park. The other one is up in our Eagle Aviary. Zulu here is 12 years old, and Phoenix, our other boy, is just 4 years old.
He's older than you.
So they'll hatch from an egg roughly the size of their own head. Within 3 months they're full size. They don't look like an adult until about their 6th
Well, yes, it's a drain.
because they change their feathers.
They drain every day.
Molding, and if you have a damaged, broken feather, it prevents you from flying. So year on year, whatever time of the season they happen to have the most food, they'll drop some feathers and grow a new set so that they're waterproof, so that they
where he will go, or she.
All of the time.
There's a person who...
There.
From Africa back across the Atlantic.
There's a new one.
I watched it.
Now this boy's name is Jack. He is an absolute professional at these displays.
Nice.
Try not to duck if you can. It'll make it much better. He is very, very good. He's more experienced than me, to be honest. He knows what he's doing out here better than I do. I'm just rambling on.
Is that a falcon?
So Jack is 10 years old, 11 years old I think it is now. And yes, he is a male
much
Harris.
more older than you, baby.
So the Hawks, what they're famous for is their acceleration and how nimble they are as well.
Hawks are you?
They're generally found in woodlands. These guys tend to spend a lot of time in deserts as well for the Harris Hawks. But they're great at winding their way in between trees. And what they do to save energy, to kind of break wind and I should say break wind, that's not what I mean to say at all, to break turbulence, they'll fly very, very low over you. If you guys weren't here, they'd be flying at the level of the seats. That's how they save themselves a little bit of energy. Very, very powerful wings there as well. You want to be further away? So if you weren't here, that's how they save themselves a little bit of energy. Very, very powerful wings there as well. You want to be further away? So if you weren't here, seats, that's how they save themselves a little bit of energy. Very, very powerful wings there as well. You want to be further away? So if you weren't here, there'd be no need for ducking and diving. He wouldn't crash into the seats, and just the same, he's not going to crash into the top of your heads as well. But I understand that it is instinct to duck. If you can avoid ducking, you'll have a better time.
It went above my head.
Going back to instinct, it's
Mama
exactly
didn't
how
duck.
these guys work. So they don't need to learn an awful lot from their parents, the bird of prey. I was talking about how quickly they develop that eagle. So that eagle will have moved off from his parents at 6 months old, fully independent. And that's true of all birds of prey as well, except for these guys. There's a very important rule that Harris Hawks tend to break.
Why are people ducking?
Because they all think the bird cannot calculate, but they can very well do that.
But with Harris Hawks, they'll actually stay with mom and dad for anything up to 3 years. There's a reason for that. It helps out everybody involved. The adults are able to hunt for bigger, more frequent food when they have some help there with them.
It's still small.
And for the youngsters,
They stay that size.
Above the limb.
so it's really, really useful for everybody involved.
Hawks are smaller birds, they're not
Harris Hawks
like
is
big.
very, very good at breaking
But very good
rules
hunters.
when it comes to that. If you watch him, hopefully you missed that was actually entirely my fault.
it.
Fly.
We'll try that again in a second so that Jack can show how good he is at that. Small pieces tend to
Just
avoid
do
him
a
as well.
backflip.
But hawks are well known for hunting both on the ground and in the air, so he's well able to catch things on the ground, but also they'll grab things on the wing. And if you noticed, well, he didn't really catch that one, but even still, you'd have seen what popped out first. It should have been the talons anyway. So normally it'll be the talons that come out first, even when they're landing on us here. Like I said at the start, the raptor's a bird of prey that catches and kills with its feet. So that's exactly what they're going to try and catch the food with.
It can also land on the
Going back to
hand.
Harris Hawks,
But
we've got two
carefully.
youngsters that were born here just 2 years ago.
It lands on its owner carefully.
And they show exactly how Harris Hawks can work with each other out in the wild. If those two are part of a wild pack at this time of year, their parents, who could be about the age of Jack here, they'd have another clutch of chicks that they'd be trying to raise. And the benefit is those older boys would be very, very useful in catching food. Despite the fact that this guy weighs only about half a kilo.
I went
just
down
over
and
that,
up.
They can take out something up to
How
the size
cool.
of a jackrabbit, which to equate to Ireland is about the size of an Irish hare if you've ever seen one, maybe 4 kg, much, much bigger than them, because they're able to cooperate with each other. You need to duck as well, yeah. So through cooperation they become excellent hunters.
Did he get them
Native
his
Americans
egg?
actually referred to these animals as the wolves of the
Probably
sky.
got them very young as baby.
Yeah.
Takes many years training.
Different techniques.
Sometimes they
Catch
can.
it!
Different techniques to catch their food in different ways. They can vary up their diet and all of that by their hunting style, so that they're able to catch more food to feed their youngsters. And that is all happening at this time of year. Like I said, Tony and Alan, the other two hawks out in the aviaries, they'll fly later in the day, and they were actually not just raised here, but they were incubated and hatched here as well. We used to have their parents living here in the park. They've moved on now, but it meant that it was a nice break to 2020 when nothing was really going right. that they were the COVID babies here.
It's like a circus here.
So, as well as being used quite widely now in these displays, they weren't used for these shows until the last 30 years. Do you want to get out? No worries. If you want to pop down, I'll draw him up to the back here so you can head around the front. They've only been used for these displays for roughly 30 years or so, which I always find quite surprising because they work so easily as part of a pack. So, because they do like to work as a pack in the wild, they consider us to be pack members for them here in captivity as well. So it makes them very, very easy to train and absolutely lovely to work with. But not just these displays, they're now very popular in pest control as well. So because Harris Hawks work so easily with people, they fly over and back like this so easily as well. They're used in places like, and it's hurtful to bring it up today so you might be able to touch my ass. Lansdowne Road would be the stadium.
Amazing.
It's so nice that they're flying above us.
You can make your own video just for the show.
These guys would have been flown over a stadium like that just before the game started. What's up, guys? That's alright, he's good. They'd have been flown over a stadium like that just before the game started to scare away pest birds like your rooks or gulls or pigeons or things like that. Because as you may be aware, they have a tendency to ruin your seats or possibly ruin your day as well if you're sitting under one and when they happen to go to the bathroom. So to prevent all of that in stadiums like Aviva and like Croke Park, these are flown around just before the show starts so that everybody can have an enjoyable day without any of those pest birds annoying them. So they're very, very useful for that there as well. If you find any good food in the audience as well, that just isn't ideal at all. So yeah, Harris Hawks now, if you go to any bird of prey display across the world, you will find these guys flying in them because they are so enjoyable to work with, so easy to train as well. So we'll give Jack one last
You only can see that here,
hopefully I'll do a good job, as will he. So you notice all the thrust being built up by the power from the wings. And I mentioned with the Battle Oar as well, the lap of the tail, whereas this guy's tail very large and square when he's in flight, and that's how he steers so well. They can pick between trees and their native
Listen to the person who explained to you, so you learn something.
Use their tail for steering like that. So absolutely excellent at their job. Like I say, Jack there, 10 years old, has been doing these displays his entire life. A lot of the time, he is clever enough that he'll be bullying those of us out here because he knows exactly his job and tends to try and see what the biggest piece of food he can get from us tends to be. And from the Americas, we will finally come back to Europe with a bird that I mentioned right back at the start of this display. These are the red kites that I mentioned have now been reintroduced, starting from Avoca.
Is that the red one?
Look how many.
Are those different?
Yeah, the three red kites.
Wild ones flying over here just last week. So what we decided to do was let these three out.
Look at the
and they had to fly around with the wild one who showed up as well. So this is Marley, Bob and Darragh.
Look at the tail how it goes
and what you'll notice about the red kites, like I say, the European bird, is their coloration. So these guys have a lovely red colour on most of their body. And as well as that,
see how they catch the food?
Bluish grey or
look at him when he throws the food.
To go along with their red wings, black wing tips.
He throw it in the air and then the birds catch it.
You see? Wings as well. So absolutely beautifully dropped you a chicken leg here. As he come get that.
Why do they have three?
They'll come down and grab it otherwise. Now, Jack displayed that he can do those catches mid-air as well. These guys even better again, because they have much smaller feet. So these guys are as much a scavenger as they are an active hunter.
Hey, you didn't.
Drop it.
You missed it.
So very much a scavenger rather than an active hunter. And the difference that you tend to get there is that scavengers have smaller feet because active hunters will have to use those feet to make their kill. Where these guys, they'll actually eat worms quite a lot. They'll sit out in plough fields and they'll look for any insects that have been dug up. That's why those two wild ones showed up for us last week. There was some ploughing going on just 3 fields over there, and they were quite happy to wait for that to finish up and see what earthworms or anything else might have been unearthed by the machine. So because of that, they don't need to have very long toes. These guys have much smaller feet. Makes them much better.
Can they even land?
Yeah, of course.
So red kites can actually take out insects.
But he keeps them in the air with throwing food,
bigger prey.
so we can see them better.
When you're this size.
So you can see how
so in order to
amazing
survive like that, their digestive system works quite differently as well. Those hawks
That's why they call red kite, because they are
these kites.
Like a
but
kite.
these guys need much less food to survive. They know that they won't get a whole lot, so instead they're able to survive on a lot less.
What did they do?
And like I said, the European bird can be found in northern Africa. Now, as well as that, they'll also show up in parts of Asia as well. But usually, just Europe, so they don't stray too far outside it. Like I say, they used to be here. They were not wiped out of Ireland roughly about 100 years ago, along with our 2 eagles. Targeted because they're considered a pest at the time, whereas now they're nothing but a help to us. Thankfully, they're back in our skies again. And again, at this time of year, they'll be breeding. So while we do a little bit of work financially supporting the Golden Eagle Trust, we also carry out some surveys for them as well, because of how ideally located we are to where these red kites are spreading out to. So we've been out looking to see if we can find.
But the other one got it.
Currently, it's split off somewhere towards Ashburn, and to see if we can find their nest for the Golden Eagle Trust. Because what they'll do at that point, if they can isolate the nest, they'll climb up to it when the chicks have hatched, and they will try and tag those chicks. So that if they show up anywhere else in a few years, we know exactly where they are moving to. As well as that, what they could do is put on GPS trackers on them. You might see a bit of silver metal on the backs of these two birds. I don't know where number 3 is gone, but we'll find them in a minute. But if you do, what that is a radio transmitter. And what it allows us to do is, if we happen to lose a bird, which almost never happens, we're able to track them down. We legally have to actually have them on them. But if you're doing that to wild birds, you can use it in a different way. You find, this is Derek, presumably.
Wow.
Yeah, no, Marley actually. So what that allows the likes of the Golden Eagle Trust to do is track exactly where their wild birds are moving away to. So it's a great way of tracking how they're spreading across the country after their reintroduction. All part of the process of reintroducing wild animals. They've done that with all of the eagles and kites that have come back to us.
Because they always get food when he's roasting.
They're the last bird in this display. We do a thing called free lofting, where they're free in their aviary.
Maybe the other one was full and tired.
Tend to enjoy their time with us, so it can take a little while to send them back in. So this is the one bird I'll allow you to stand up with. We'll end the show with this. There's a talk on our macaques, which I've run into for the 2nd day in a row, just around the corner here, and then there's a talk on our tigers just after that. There might be some feeds involved as well, so you might enjoy that, guys. We go again at 2:30 with some different birds if you're interested in coming back to see us again. But otherwise, thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day, kids.
Thank you.